Okay, and we are now live on YouTube. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Tyler Ellison, channel for Ryok, and I am joined with my amazing host, Marcia, and she is filling in for Yahira, who was unable to make it today. Marcia, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm very excited to be here. So, hello, everybody. Welcome.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, we're both so happy to have you here. These events are so special and are so amazing to do. And we love the opportunity to be able to take your questions and to be able to present some really in-depth answers to whatever y'all decide to bring today. Marcia, are you able to see the questions in the YouTube chat or
Um,
comments or anything?
Let me not yet. Just give me a second.
Sure.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I'm seeing
Okay.
it.
Perfect. Perfect. So I'm going to go into the state, and Ryok's going to be talking about the upcoming event, which is called Your Own UFO, which will be held on the 31st of May. So it's going to be the last day of this month, and we're going to be doing it at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. So for folks that are in Europe, the ability to attend this event live should be much more doable for all of you. So we hope to see you all there. I'm going to go ahead, close my eyes, get into the state, and I will see you all at the end of this transmission. So enjoy. Greetings, good day to all of you. We thank you for your attendance in this transmission. This day of your time, we shall describe to you the upcoming event titled Your Own UFO. In this event, we shall share with you an exercise, a process that can assist you in understanding your consciousness in a way that represents the symbology of a UFO, the idea of what you would consider to be an ET spacecraft. Many of you, because of belief systems that you use about what it is to be human, create limitations that you impose upon your consciousness. For understand, you do, of course, have a human consciousness. However, human consciousness is not the totality of who and what you are. For in a higher octave level above the physical reality, you have a soul consciousness. And in a higher octave level above the soul, you have oversoul consciousness. So these other levels of consciousness are yours, just as much as human consciousness is also yours. However, again, because of limitations you impose upon yourselves, because of definitions you use about being human, you limit yourself to the idea of a limited human consciousness. As you shed some of these ideas, you can then access more of the higher self. You can then access more of the soul. You can then access more of the oversoul. And through the exercise we shall share with you, we will assist you all in using your imagination to conceptualize your consciousness as an ET vehicle. So you can access more of your extra dimensional abilities that relate to who and what you are as a soul, as a spirit. And the skills that you open up from the exercise can translate in many different ways. The exercise can assist you in really understanding more about yourself, your beliefs, your emotions. It can assist you in really understanding more about certain abilities that you all have, such as scanning energy, turning on what you consider to be some of the extra dimensional skills, such as clairaudience, clairvoyance, and it can also assist you in activating lucid dreaming, astral projection. Because for many of you, when you think of a spacecraft, when you think of a UFO, you think of a vehicle that has unlimited potential. It can do anything. And you are all the same. You all possess that unlimited potential. And when you begin to see your body, your consciousness as a technology that you can master, that you can really work with in expanded ways, then those skills, those abilities that are natural to you begin to open up, begin to become more available. We are so excited to be able to deliver this exercise and transmission to all of you. And we thank you for your attention thus far in this description. We now will make ourselves available to each of you for whatever questions or comments you are excited to share with us this day.
Hello, Ryok.
Greetings, how are you?
I'm very, very well, very happy to be here.
As are we.
And first question is, what is the meaning of the fish symbol, sometimes used to represent Yeshua?
Understand the fish symbol has a few different meanings. On one level, it is representing the idea of abundance. It is also, in terms of astrology, representing what you consider to be the age of Pisces, because what you understand as Pisces was an energetic theme during the times Yeshua was alive. And Pisces, over time, as a period, transitioned into other astrological themes. So because during the Yeshua times, Pisces was an active theme, this is another reason that particular symbol was utilized to represent the current astrological themes of the times. It also, in many ways, represents what you consider to be the Vesica Pisces. Again, playing with the idea here of Pisces. When you think about the symbol of the two overlapping circles, when you remove the outer portions of both of the circles, that center portion is the fish symbol that many of you are familiar with, that represents Yeshua, that represents what you consider to be early Christianity. So these are some of the energies that are connected to that particular symbol. There's much more here, but as you meditate upon the symbol, as you play with the symbol, it will continue to teach you, because it is in and of itself a form of sacred geometry. It is intelligent, and through you, it is conscious as you meditate upon it, as you share energy with it. So we thank you for this particular question.
Great. Next question is, what are the halls of Amenti? Where are they? How can we use them? And are they somehow related to Shambhala?
They are different than Shambhala. They represent what you consider to be a level of your collective consciousness. They are not physical. They're not physical locations. They are extra-dimensional locations that house different facets of information that represent what you consider to be your species' greater potential. And when an individual wakes up from their slumber in the Hall of Amentes, they wake up on Earth. And what we mean by this is they wake up to more of who and what they are. So what you consider to be that hall is simply a reservoir of collective and individual potential that represents more of your higher selves. When you are not fully representing who and what you are on Earth, it's as if that aspect of yourself, in a sense, is asleep. And when you begin to awaken more of your awareness of who and what you are, that aspect of yourself then begins to awaken, and you then form a relationship where you are effectively then channeling your higher self. Now, understand, technically speaking, those aspects of yourself are always awake, the higher self, the higher mind. They are perpetually awake. They are unconditionally awake. It is the you on the ground that has yet to awaken fully to those energies. But as you awaken more and more and more to them, you then create that process of an awakening within you, and you then effectively channel more of who and what you are.
The next question is, how do you perceive the UFO report that is set to be released in a few weeks to shift our public perception of ETs?
Well, in many ways, we see it as a step forward in relationship to open contact, because many of you believe that what your governments say are true. Many of you place the idea of authority, of what is true and untrue, in the hands of government. Now, we understand many of you have ceased to do this, and you are now recognizing you are the ones that get to determine what is true and what is not true for you. But for many individuals in your physical reality, that authority has been handed to government. So when government then releases this type of information, many individuals then begin to really take that information seriously, and they begin to apply it in their lives as if it is real. So we see it as a positive step forward in relationship to open contact. It will shed light on quite a few things in relationship to the idea of government involvement with extraterrestrials, different encounters members of government have had with extraterrestrials, and there will also be the idea of a disclosure in how long this knowledge has been present for. So this will open up many doors in terms of the collective understanding of the UFO phenomenon. And this is all a part of the disclosure process. More and more and more disclosure will happen up until the year 2023. It will still continue after that year, but once you pass through that window, that is 2023, you will then be in a position where the extraterrestrial energies will be present enough in your collective consciousness where greater levels of contact experiences will then be available to each of you.
Can we have a permission slip technique to manifest members of our soul family?
Well, the idea is to simply be yourself, because if you're not really representing yourself, you're not channeling your soul. Remember, your soul is a part of a group that you call the soul pod, the soul group, the soul family. So when you channel your soul, you're automatically resonating with members of your soul group, with members of your soul pod. So in order to really experience those other members in the physical reality, you must be in resonance with your soul, which will then tune you in to the energies of the soul group. And then those individuals will begin to appear through the path of least resistance. Many of you actually encounter them, but because you're not in the proper frequency state, you don't recognize them. So as you learn to channel that energy more, you become more perceptive to its frequency in the physical reality, and you'll begin to notice the individuals around you that are connected to that soul group, and they might not be the individuals you expect. Some you may recognize, some you may anticipate. However, you may find there are people already in your reality whom you did not recognize as a member of the soul group, but in fact are. So be yourself, channel yourself fully in every area of your life, in every dimension of your life. And you'll have no choice but to then experience the soul group, because what you put out is what you get back. So that is the result of that particular energy state, experiencing more of the soul group, the soul family on Earth.
And next question is it true that the giants that lived on Earth were from planet Maldek?
No, many of the giants that lived on Earth are natural terrestrial beings. They are still on your Earth. They are, however, no longer anchored into the physical reality because of your species' collective belief systems that do not necessarily allow those beings to be perceivable. So they now operate within what you consider to be the etheric realm, what you consider to be the astral realm, in a way that is quasi-physical. So they are still connected to your planet. They still interact with your planet. They're simply operating on another wavelength, another level of energy overlaid upon the physical reality. And some of you, when you're in the proper frequency state, can really resonate with that level, and then these beings become more perceivable. So they are still abundant. They are still all around you, actually. It's simply a matter of tuning into them, but they are terrestrial. Now, understand other planets also have giants. And some of these giants that are extraterrestrial have visited your Earth in different times, have started colonies on your planet during different periods of time. So some giant populations are extraterrestrial. However, many of the ones that are involved with Earth are from Earth.
The next question is, who exactly is it that needs healing? The Oversoul? How does it work with us needing trauma and karmic healing if we are part of an all-knowing Oversoul?
The Oversoul is not the one that requires healing, for it itself is already perpetually in a state of alignment. It's able to understand all of the reasons and the whys for every occurrence that happens in every incarnation. It knows the bigger picture because it is the observer that is present before, during, and after the incarnation. It understands the whole story. Think of the Oversoul as a librarian that has read all of the books in the library. That's the Oversoul. So it's not necessarily the one that experiences healing because it itself is already perfectly aligned, and all healing is a returning to the energy state that is alignment. Many of you, when you are out of alignment with the Oversoul, with the soul, with the higher self, then must go through some type of healing process in the incarnation to then create that state of alignment. So the idea is healing is your process, not so much the process of the Oversoul. The Oversoul experiences healing through you. However, it itself is already in that state of being that represents alignment. Just as you read a book in your physical reality and a character in the book is angry or is sad or is happy, you can read about this, you can understand what they're going through, you can empathize with them, you can get really into the story almost as if you're there, but you know it's just a book. That's what the Oversoul's experience is. However, for the character, that process is very real. That process is very important. And that process is pivotal for that character's growth and development. And that is the case with all of you and the healing processes that you go through. And when you allow for yourselves to heal, to align with your true nature, you then allow yourselves to channel more of the Oversoul into your physical reality.
And next question is, can you give us ideas how to make contact with other parallel realities of Earth?
Through your imagination. When you simply visualize these versions of Earth and the differences that exist between the version of Earth you're imagining and the one that you believe you are on, you then can hone in on the vibratory state, the frequency of that version of Earth. And as you understand its energy, as you understand the feeling that represents it, you can then stretch your imagination even more to represent a version of you on that Earth. And then imagine the actions that version of you would take, the thoughts that version of you would think, the feelings that version of you would feel, the places that version of you would go, so on and so forth, and emulate that in your reality. And you will blend the alternate version of Earth with the version of Earth you believe yourself to be on, and you will form a Vesica Pisces, a third reality. That's a blend of the visualization. That's a blend of what you believe to be true about your reality. And you will get a third reality that represents a unique timeline that you have selected. Because whenever you're imagining something, you're connecting to the frequency of another reality. However, that other reality already has a version of you that is on it. So what is required to experience that other reality is the blending, the merging, the union of these two energies, your reality and theirs coming together to create a new third option. And that's how you shift to the alternate versions of Earth that you say you prefer. It's really all in the imagination. Make that alternate version of Earth as vivid and as real as possible. You can even write about it as if you were a writer writing a story. What is happening on that version of Earth? How did it get there? What were some of the changes that took place? How did those changes affect the population? How did their awakening go? What was open contact like for them? Whatever you prefer to experience, create that storyline, really get into that co-creator perspective and give rise to that type of narrative, and then blend your reality with the energy of that narrative and act it out. And things will really pick up, things will really begin to accelerate for you. The more real you can make it, the more you can get into it, like a child using their imagination to play a very powerful game. You too can create your own unique world.
Next question is Earth flat?
No, it appears that way to certain frequencies of consciousness. However, as we observe your Earth, it is not flat. It is somewhat spherical, although it is not necessarily a perfect sphere.
Okay, next question. Please let me know if by having cataract surgery and having the lens that is put in the eye at the time, one shuts out beneficial sun rays and energies perceived by the eye.
There can be the idea of a difference in sunlight absorption, photonic absorption through the eye as the result of something like this. However, this is really a question to speak to your doctor about, so you can understand more about if this particular procedure is appropriate for you. Now, we remind you, the eyes are only one way of taking in photons. Your skin also does this as well. So even if there is some type of, let's just say, issue that arises due to the procedure, it's not as if you are prohibited or unable to absorb photons. Your skin is perfectly designed to be able to do that as well. So speak to your physician about this. We are not medical professionals. That is a question for them.
Who were Enki and Enlil?
These represent archetypal forces that are a part of what you consider to be the Sumerian pantheon. So these archetypal forces are bigger than any specific being that exists. What we mean by this is these forms of consciousness that are archetypal in nature exist on the highest levels of all that is. Different beings channel those archetypes. In your cultures, many rulers, many kings, many leaders would claim to be the incarnation of a particular deity, of a particular god. What they were doing was channeling the archetype that had been deified. And these beings, Enlil, Enki, so on and so forth, represent Sumerian deities that were used to create a greater contextual understanding of those archetypes. Now, certain beings that we call the Anunnaki have visited your Earth, and they have channeled, just as the royalty did in certain cultures, those archetypal energies. So many of those names, Enlil, Enki, so on and so forth, oftentimes are associated with the Anunnaki. And many individuals believe that these Anunnaki beings actually possessed those names. It's not that they were actually called Enlil or Enki. It's that they themselves were channeling those archetypes that were called Enlil and Enki.
What was the usage of those handbags and wristwatches the Anunnaki had in their ancient drawings?
It represented the idea of an extra-dimensional storage device that was internal. It was not actually an external thing that was held. It represented the idea of an internal technology that gave these beings the ability to store energy. It gave these beings the ability to store energy in a way that surpasses what many of you believe to be possible, because these beings are, of course, extraterrestrial in nature, these Anunnaki beings. So their awareness of who and what they are, their awareness of their energy bodies is very expanded compared to the awareness of the early humans of those times. So these extra-dimensional spaces within them in many ways operated as containers that could hold energy. However, the containers themselves acted as a doorway, as a portal to what you consider to be the soul realm, the soul level. So when energy was placed into that particular container, it was as if the Anunnaki being's consciousness began to stretch between the physical body and the idea of that soul level. And in many ways, they could use that container as a portal to store energy in the soul level and to also retrieve energy from it at will whenever they needed to. So it was a device, a psychic device, that enabled them to access more of the soul level in a way that enabled them to really express it and play with it in the physical reality. The wristwatch, in many ways, has to do with the idea, again, of a certain type of psychic technology that alters the flow of space and time. And it enables the Anunnaki beings to be able to shift, to be able to teleport to different locations within the physical reality. For understand that whenever you make a teleportation shift from one location to another, time is always involved in that process because space and time are entangled. They are actually one force, so to say. They are one energy. So that particular technology is a symbol, the wristwatch, that relates to their abilities to teleport and to be able to shift from realities that represent their craft in the cosmos and different locations on the planet, as well as their ability to shift from location to location in the physical reality.
Whoa, awesome. Why would someone such as myself still have non-physical memories?
Well, understand that you all have non-physical memories because what you consider to be a memory really is just an imagining of another reality that exists. So understand that when you tune into a memory from childhood, really what you're doing is you're honing in on another frequency of the here and now that represents a different time. And you then create the idea of feelings, thoughts, images in the now that are designed to assist you in contextualizing that other simultaneous reality that you call the past. So what you consider to be the realities of the soul, the realities of the oversoul, are realities you are unconditionally connected to. And as you become aware of them, you then translate those energies through the same mechanism that you use to translate memory. You begin to have feelings, you begin to have thoughts, you begin to receive images that assist you in contextualizing the idea of those other realities. But it's not really a memory in the way that you think. It's not that it's coming from the past. You're tuning into a simultaneously occurring reality in the now, and you're translating it. And it might feel like a memory because many of you believe you were in spirit before the incarnation, which is not necessarily accurate because you are still in spirit. You have never left. It is an unconditional part of you.
What were the ancient Inca ruins known as Morai in Peru were used for?
They were used for the idea of divination. They were used for the idea of communion with different celestial beings. Some of these beings represent macro consciousness that are related to constellations, to stars, and different shamans, different priests, so to say, would commune with these macro consciousnesses to understand more about all types of different patterns and shifts that were taking place on the earth, so the people there could adapt to it and flow accordingly. Because if those patterns were not understood, the people in those areas could go through periods of confusion. And in those times, if that was the operating energy of the collective, many issues, many challenges would then manifest rather quickly, because people would not necessarily adapt to the movement of the patterns. But when these shamans would connect with the stars and interact with the stars and commune with the stars, they themselves could really contextualize the patterns and the cycles that the earth and the land was going through, so that these teachings could then be shared with the people, so the people could have a structure, a sense of a path, which would create a rootedness and a groundedness, so an energetic integrity could be maintained within the idea of the collective. This particular location also was a site for contact. So many beings are connected to the idea of these stellar celestial forms of consciousness. So when the shamans would be in a deep enough state of resonance with these celestial bodies, the resonance would form a bridge. So different beings from other realities could then walk through. And these beings would then work with the shamans, train the shamans, so they could then more powerfully ground in some of these stellar frequencies into the earth, into their society.
Next question is, I want to stay in the now. What do you recommend I do when a memory comes up?
Well, if a memory comes up, it's coming up in the now. So just because you have a thought, just because you have a feeling, just because you have a dream, just because you have a memory, doesn't mean you've left the now. All experiences are a part of the now. It's all about what you do with those things when they pop up. So when those things emerge, when those things pop up, stay aware of what is present. So what you consider to be present from our point of view is the idea of things that are consistent from one moment to the next, 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 to the next. Your breath is one of these things. Your sense of your body, the feeling of your body, is one of these things. The silence that is behind every sound is one of these things. The space that is between and within all objects of density that you experience is one of these things. So when you allow for yourself to remain aware of something that is unconditionally present, it can assist your consciousness in remaining rooted to the here and now. So you can then experience the feeling, the thought, the dream, the memory, the fantasy in a way that's grounded and in a way that allows for you to stay tuned to the energies of what you consider to be the here and now. When that rooting, when that grounding, when that awareness is not present, many of you go into what you consider to be a mind spiral. You start to play with the memory or the dream or the thought, and it leads you to another thought, then 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 another thought, and it continues to spiral until something in the here and now grabs your attention and reminds you to breathe, or reminds you to feel your body, or reminds you to connect with the physical reality. However, you can do that job yourself by simply remaining aware of those things at all times. And then you will always remain tuned to the here and now, and you can experience thoughts, feelings, fantasy, memory, dream, and it won't feel like it's pulling you out of the moment. So we know we mentioned quite a few different permission slips you can become aware of to root you into the moment. You don't have to pay attention to all of them. Pick the one that you feel is natural for you. That might be feeling the inside of your body. That might be sensing the space around you. and within you. That might be listening to the silence. That might be watching the breath. Whatever it is, use the one that's most natural to you, and it will act as an anchor.
What's hidden in Oak Iceland? What's the mystery behind Oak Iceland?
There are many mysteries here. There's not just one thing going on. There are different structures that are present, that are subterranean in nature, that possess within them different energetic gateways that are active, that have certain effects within the physical reality, within the land. And it can give rise to different types of phenomenon that you consider to be unusual, that you consider to be a little abnormal. It's the result of energies from different civilizations that have existed at that location in what you would consider to be the past, your species' more ancient days. It's a carryover from a specific society. More will be said on this later, but now is not necessarily the time.
Is the Bosnian pyramid authentic and built by humans?
It's a blend. Remember, many of the pyramids that exist on your planet are created by humans. However, the designs and some of the technologies used are off-world because extraterrestrials, after the Anunnaki left, continued to work with your species, continued to guide your species, continued to train your species, and continue to share information and energy with your kind. So many of the structures, many of the sacred sites and the temples that exist on your planet were created by humans. But the way they were created utilized different techniques that your species had learned from other beings. So the Bosnian pyramids are another example of this.
How do dinosaurs widen on this planet?
How do they widen?
Yeah.
We do not understand what the individual is asking.
Well, let's see if he could write later on what he means.
All right.
So, what are energies, themes surrounding the name Moasir?
One moment. Please repeat the name.
Moasir.
There's a strong connection to what you consider to be lion frequencies, feline frequencies, connections to the energies that you consider to be royalty, which you all possess. You all possess this. However, some of you channel it into your bodies, into your reality more so than others. So this particular name has a strong connection to that archetype that represents the lion king, so to say, to use one of your symbols that exist in your movies. There's a connection to this archetype.
Next question is there a sound or combination of frequencies in hertz that can induce us in a similar state to an LSD trip in its sound?
Yes, there are many, although we're not necessarily going to describe that here for different reasons. You can find this, it exists. There are many individuals that produce these types of sounds in the form of binaural beats. And these things can be quite effective to shift your consciousness into altered states. These things can be very powerful, so be mindful, use them responsibly. They do exist though, and that's a starting point. Look into binaural beats, you will likely find more.
When will be the first contact?
There has already been first contact. First contact occurred when the Anunnaki came and interacted with your world. So understand that open contact is different than first contact. Open contact represents the idea of extraterrestrial species openly, physically interacting with your people. Now, contact has already been occurring, as we have said. Many individuals and many indigenous people from your planet have had direct physical encounters with extraterrestrials. So these things are ongoing. As you move into the window of open contact, which is beginning approximately around the year 2023, that type of dynamic if your species accepts the invitation, will become more common on a global scale. And that process we see really picking up in 2023.
Okay, next question. Can you talk about Caral, ancestral civilization of Peru? Do you know about it?
We are aware of some of the energies here and understand that this particular civilization has certain connections to the idea of Atlantis. However, the ancestry goes far back enough in a way that relates to connections to Lemuria as well. So different Lemurian groups traveled to this area that is now called Peru and had some colonies there. And over time, as Lemuria fell, Atlantean beings then colonized this particular area. So there was again a blending of Lemurian and Atlantean genetics. And this then over time became some of the different indigenous peoples and populations that you now recognize in a more contemporary sense.
Next question is, should we avoid vaccines?
It's important that you make your own decisions about what is appropriate and inappropriate for your body. For some individuals, because of their belief systems, the vaccine may be the most appropriate thing for them to receive. For other individuals, it may not be. It's case by case. Remember, it's not a matter of should or shouldn't. Both choices are valid. You're here on Earth to have an experience. And that experience can be anything that you choose. So all options are valid options. Not all options are relevant for you. Not all options will really represent you, but those aren't the options for you. They're still valid. They're just not yours. So pay attention to the options, to the choices that resonate with you. And that's how you'll know which options are natural to you. Just pay attention to the frequency, pay attention to the feeling, because it's never a matter of should or shouldn't. It's really a matter of what do I prefer and what do I not prefer? What excites me? What resonates with my heart? What does not? And things are much more simple when they are observed in that way. So make your own choice and speak to your physicians, your doctors about these matters. They can share with you more information than we are able to, for we are not doctors or physicians. We operate as what you consider to be a spirit guide, a higher self mirror and reflection. We will never tell you what you should or shouldn't do. We will only encourage you to make your own decisions.
Next question is from Alcides. He asks, am I alien?
You are all technically alien, as well as technically human, because you are all hybrids. Your species was modified by the extraterrestrial group that you know as the Anunnaki. So every single member of your species possesses hybrid ET genetics. So you are all technically part alien, but you are all, of course, human. So you're both, as is every member of your species. So congratulations on finding out more about yourself.
Next question is, if we're always shifting to a parallel reality, why did my higher self show me that I and other members of my soul family moved to a different Earth like it was a especially remarkable event?
Well, some of the shifts that you make are quite remarkable in relationship to the difference in frequency. So sometimes when there are certain alignments within consciousness that are mirrored externally by certain celestial events, different portals within consciousness are opened up that can allow for individuals and groups of individuals to shift reality in a way where greater levels of change can then be experienced. Greater levels of transformation can then be experienced. So you're always shifting, but how you shift is not always the same. Sometimes you shift in a way that represents creating only slight differences in the paradigm, in the physical reality. In other instances, when you shift, the differences, the level of transformation are much bigger. So in this particular instance, a greater shift was made. But it's not the only shift. You're constantly shifting. All you do is shift. Shift is another word for change. So you're always changing. It's how you change that really creates the experience of the difference.
Next question. Is there vortexes or high vibrational places in Scandinavia, more specifically northern Scandinavia?
There are many. Your entire Earth is covered in these locations. A basic exercise you can do is print out a map of the area you are interested in exploring. Gather a pendulum. Charge the pendulum with energy in whatever way you know how to. You can simply pray over the pendulum. You can channel through your hands energy into the pendulum. You can leave the pendulum out in the moonlight. There's many different ways, but activate the pendulum with your intention and hover the pendulum slowly over different areas on the map that you have printed out. Move the hand very slowly and pay attention for where on the map the pendulum responds. The pendulum may begin to move. It may begin to vibrate. It may begin to sway. Pay attention to the locations on the map that seem to elicit a movement or response from the pendulum. And that's how you can begin to understand for yourself some of these high vibrational areas that are present in this location that you are inquiring about.
What's the difference between parallel reality and actual timeline? Which is happening physically? And how many timelines do Earth have?
There are infinite timelines Earth has. You're not experiencing all of them. You don't have access to all of them because the timelines are selected through vibrational relevance. And not all of the infinite timelines are really relevant for you to experience. Only so many are. More become available to you as you shift your frequency, and at the same time, less become available to you as you shift your frequency. Because the more you vibrate at a certain level, things that are of that level then become more proximal to you. Things that are contradictory to that level move away from you. So you're constantly shifting the amount and quality of the timelines that you have access to. Both timelines and parallel realities are real. A parallel reality has no movement. It is a picture. Think of it as a multi-dimensional picture. It represents a still shot of what is happening on every level of the physical reality. That's a parallel reality. Now, billions of times per second, you are shifting from parallel reality to parallel reality to parallel reality to parallel reality. And it's like a flip book. The parallel realities that you are shifting through are organized in a way that represents linear time. So when you move through the static images that are the parallel realities, you move through them in a way that creates the experience of movement, of linear movement. That series of parallel realities that you shift through that creates movement, the passage of time, is a timeline. So timelines are made up of parallel realities.
Just a time check. It's 12:55 your time.
All right. We thank you for the time check. We shall take one more question this day.
Okay. Is in meditation always seeing long-necked beings, really tall ones, in some way reminds me of Star Wars. I wonder what beings, if these beings are real or just some kind of my imagination.
Well, it's both, because remember, all things that you experience are different filtrations of the imagination. So even when you experience another person, something external, something solid that you can touch, you're still using your imagination to perceive that. Everything in the reality, you experience through your imagination. So when you are experiencing the phenomenon of another being through your imagination in a way that feels like a visualization, you're using the imagination to sense something that's non-physical. Where in your life, you're using your imagination to sense something that is physical. So because the imagination is tuning into something that is non-physical, it is perceived as if it is some type of visualization. So what you are experiencing is a representation, is a translation of a being of another form of consciousness. So this is a relationship you can cultivate. This is a relationship you can develop. Simply interact with these beings, communicate with them, validate them as real. Feel your heartbeat and feel as if your heartbeat is occurring within them. Feel your breath. Feel as if your breath is occurring within them. Feel your love. Feel your heart. Feel your joy and feel as if those qualities are shining from within them. And you'll begin to dissolve the sense of separateness. And all of a sudden, a door will be opened and you'll begin to have a heart-to-heart communication with this being and the collective they are connected to. So have fun with that, for there's much that you can learn from this communication. We thank you for your sharing and we thank you for your question. We shall now allow for the channel to return to a more normalized state of consciousness. We thank you all for your exciting co-creative questions this day and our unconditional love to each of you. All right.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the questions, Marcia. You picked great questions. Those were a lot of fun to get into.
No, my pleasure. Always excited to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this great event. We had a blast doing that. I hope you liked Ryok's information. I know I did. That was a lot of fun. And our upcoming event, Your Own UFO, will be taking place on the 31st of May, and that's going to be at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. So I hope to see you all there. We're going to have a lot of fun. It should be a blast off of an event. So we're looking forward to it. I'm going to sign off for now. I am got to get going. I got some stuff I got to take care of, but I thank you all for sharing this hour with me. And Marcia, thank you for being with me here and for your lovely services of assistance.
No, my pleasure. Thank you. And thank you all. Thank you for your great questions. I always learn from your questions, guys.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Have a beautiful day.
Yeah. Bye-bye.